Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Robert Jackson, and thank you for tuning in to the podcast. Yeah, I know it's definitely been a crazy April with a lot that has been going on, and I mean, I even got like a new shirt. I don't know if you can see it's like actually, yeah, Final Fantasy here because I'm just in the mood to rep some good old RPGs. So, yeah, and I still got my posters behind me. So, hey, we're about to enter into the spring season. So, let's kick off this season with another interview because that's just usually what I do for the show. But if you guys like to see like more of some stuff with like outside of interviews, like I don't know, maybe do discussions, vlogs that I've been planning on, like animation or just topics that I'm wanted to dive into. Like you know what, I'm open for suggestions and feedback. But today we're going to be chatting with somebody who has really been around on Instagram, and I've been seeing their content, and they have done a lot of shows and voiceover stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jayme Mantos in the corner with me today. And thank you so much for joining me on this lovely Wednesday or hot Wednesday afternoon. It's
Thank you so
crazy.
much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So, I guess with that said, with all of this out of the way, I guess we could just get right down to just asking how everything's been going. I know we kind of talked a little bit before we started recording, but yeah, just share some of your highlights or anything that you've done you're really um that you feel the most proud of, so proud that you've been really enjoying so far this year. And yeah, just get to know, just to have this icebreaker out of the way.
Yeah, totally. So there are a lot of things I've been working on that I'm very excited about. In particular, as far as content creation goes, I'd been taking a little bit of sabbatical from being as active on social media, particularly TikTok, just for my own mental health stuff and just to kind of recharge and come up with fresh creative ideas that resonated with me. And so now I've gotten to this place where I have a whole list of things that I'm excited about and that I'm working on or collaborating with people on. And so I'm in development and or in the process of recording those both on my own and with other people right now. And so later this week, actually tomorrow, I'm recording a couple of original scenes with someone that I'm really excited to do and premiere online. I'm also recording some covers of some songs, one from Has Been Hotel with a couple of my friends. So I'm really excited about that. And just like excited to be creating. I'm also a writer as well as a voice actor, so I've been working on a lot of my own original projects, and so I'm excited to dive back into those. And just get to, now that the days are staying lighter longer, just going out and like doing things with people instead of wanting to curl up under my covers in my bed.
Wow, man. Reaching to the choir in that one. um
hmm
I was also going to mention too that I also have been dabbling a little into writing, directing projects, because I'm just somebody who is like, oh, okay, I've been acting for a while, for at least a few years now, and then I kind of got that little bug where I'm just like, maybe I can do more. I want to be a director. So, what have so,
Yeah, why not?
uh, yeah,
Go for
yeah,
it.
literally, why not? But
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, so it's just kind of like you just do one thing and then next thing it's like, oh, okay, so I can be a podcast host, I can write, make content, and do all this extra wibbly wobbly nonsense, which is what a lot of us actors do because we just, for some reason, whenever we're working like 24/7, we just kind of have get these bugs of just, okay, I guess I might as well just do this now. Since I'm at this stage of my career, why not?
Yeah, and I think to that point, there's been a lot of discussion and or pressure in the industry lately for everyone to have to be a multi-hyphenate, right? Like instead of just one thing, especially financially. But I think that that's really kind of indicative of how we are as human beings, Like we're complex human beings with a whole bunch of different talents and interests that aren't exclusive to one particular thing. And so I think that that's a really cool thing that we get to explore in our career. is all the other ways that we can tell a story or be creatively expressive. You don't have to be tied down to one thing. And like, how are you supposed to know if you enjoy something or it resonates with you or you like or want to keep learning about it if you don't try it out? So I don't think you have anything to lose. It's just a discovery process.
Yeah. And I always I always say, you know what, if there's something that you want to do, just give it a shot. Give it a shot anyways. What's stopping you?
Totally. Why not you?
Exactly. But I guess might as well just get right to the nitty-gritty here. So let's take us if we were to take a little step back into essentially how you got started with this whole crazy showbiz thing. That's usually one of my favorite things to discuss about. So I know I read a little bit about your background, but what was it that sort of put the light bulb in your head of being like, oh my gosh, I can do this. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So for me, I've been one of those actors that's kind of a lifer. I think I was thinking about this the other day, actually. The first play I ever remember seeing when I was little was a local production of Pinocchio at a local theater. And I was immediately enamored because I already love Pinocchio anyway, because I love puppets, but that's a side tangent. But I was so excited and I got to meet the cast members afterwards and everything. And just like the exhilarating thrill of live theater, I don't know, I must have articulated somehow asking my mom, like, this is a thing you can do? What? Like, this looks so fun. And so I always loved that. And I was always in plays ever since kindergarten. I would get involved in the school plays and I loved movies too. My dad was an actor and a musician, and my mom's a writer as well, and she's always loved movies and musicals, and so I grew up with a deep appreciation of movies. But I would also like to date myself a little bit, like whenever they had some behind the scenes features or something at the end of a VHS, I would like fast forward through the credits so I could watch those and learn
Yes,
everything
yes, yes, yes,
about
yes. Yes.
yeah, like the
Yeah.
making of the movies because I loved the whole process. I was like, well, now that I've seen the movie, how do they do it? And so I really got involved in it that way as well. And with voiceover specifically, I kind of like accidentally have been preparing myself for it my whole life before I realized it was a career because I my dad was a very funny man, very Robin Williams-esque. And so he and I always used to do bits and voices and characters together and all that kind of stuff. And like my best friend from back home and we would dub over like Harry Potter movies in their entirety and
Mm,
do like a 2.5 hour long improv and all the accents and character
man.
voices and everything. And so it was like so much fun growing up doing that. And I've always had an ear for dialects and accents and original characters that I come up with in my head. I think I currently have like 20 plus right now. And so I've just kind of like always been writing and always been acting. And so once I realized you could do it professionally, I was like, yeah, this is all I want to do with my life.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because the whole watching the movies thing and getting in front of the TV and doing the improv and everything, that was just I, dude, it's like our stories just kind of align. I know they say it's a small world, but it really, really is. When I was a kid, I was that weirdo that would just be like, just mute the TV and then just read it and then just perform the scene, and just literally with the subtitles on, or sometimes not because I would just know the scene by heart because the
Hmm.
movie is just so good. Like if I'm in the mood, I would just do it out of boredom. But then I didn't know that. Hey, guess what? In the industry, there's voice matching. There's ADRs. So that's something that I like. Literally, when you do this as a kid, it's like you just didn't really you wouldn't really expect it that as something that you could actually get paid to do, and this is like an actual career that you can venture into. And I mean, I could say the same as like when you're doing music, when you're producing, directing, anything that you're doing in life, you just never expected it to really with these small little weird hobbies that you do can just grow into something even bigger. You just never know.
Yeah, let me ask you, what is one movie that you know forwards and backwards, every word too.
Okay. It used to be Diary of a Wimpy Kid, like the live action one that came out like way back when. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm also somebody who is like, oh yeah, the Disney films. I would just quote, I would actually reenact like the movements and not just remember the dialogue, but I would just reenact the movements of like The Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, Snow White, Dumbo, a lot of those films. And I tried to do the dance moves in the Jungle Book with the bare necessities, and it was a catchy, like literally all of the songs I can still remember from heart, like "Be Our Guest," "Friend Like Me," "I Can't Wait to Be King," "Circle of Life." I see. There's the Disney nerd in me
Bangers.
just
Yeah.
rambled on. Yeah. So there you go. You just have to ask me this, and I just have to ramble. So,
No, I love it. I'm so glad
yeah,
that you did. For me,
yeah,
it's The Lion King. I know every single word
yeah,
to that movie, to my family's detriment, I'm sure, because
dude.
I watched it over and over and over and over and over,
I
and
could.
listen to the soundtrack over and over. And I could quote the whole movie. You could just put it on, and I could do it. And when I was little, I had my little action figures for The Lion King, so I would like have them act out the scenes as I'm watching it too, just to be in the theme.
Mm, yeah, yeah. The Lion King. I remember every single scene because I used to have the VHSs, and that
Yeah.
scene, they would just be burned into my brain forever, um, from beginning to end. And it, to me, it kind of represented the era, and this is the animation nerd in me talking, but it really was the era when Disney was really like, there's no way you could just not see a Disney film during that time in the 90s. Like, they were pretty much the kings of animation back then. They had
Yeah.
this big renaissance, and they were just releasing hit after hit, and then we got Pixar and DreamWorks and all those other. I mean, I do love those films too. Shrek is another one. Speaking of DreamWorks, there's
Yes.
Shrek. But yeah,
Yes.
I have so many VHSs, man. Like I still
So do I. Still have them
yeah.
at my mom's house in Virginia. There's a whole, all of my original Disney movies are
Ooh,
still on
wow.
VHS.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, because I still have them in a storage somewhere. I don't know where they are, but I know I still have them just for we're sentimental, okay? Like whatever we
Yeah,
keep, it's like it just reminds us during the simple times. The
it does.
pre yeah.
It does. And I don't know if you feel this way too. I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but like I
I'm
was
in my
talking to some
early
friends.
20s.
Oh, okay, great. Well, I was talking to
Yeah.
some friends about this earlier this week, and like growing up in the 90s in particular, I feel like late 80s going into 90s kids are very nostalgic, especially for that time, because like it was the best time to be a kid. You had all these amazing animated movies, you had amazing animated TV shows and kids content, and like the toys were great, the music was great, like video games were great, and we were growing
Yeah.
up and coming up with video game
And the
development,
live
and so
action
like
movies and shows. Yeah, everything.
yeah, like
Books.
we really had it
Music.
made back in the day,
Yeah.
and so I feel like a lot of people within our greater generation are very like nostalgic for that time because it
Yeah.
was amazing and still is. That part of me never grew up. I still love all that
Exactly.
stuff.
I'm in a Discord, and I'm probably gonna. I know some group of friends of mine are probably gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, dude." But whenever we're in a Discord, we would just discuss like theme parks and old movies and shows, and in particular, we would just talk about Universal Studios or Disney theme parks, and then we would just kind of grieve over the fact that, oh my gosh, no more Back to the Future the ride, or no more Splash Mountain. And those are kind of our main, that's kind of how a lot of us just grew together. We just talk about theme parks and our love of whether it's Disney or Jurassic Park, Back to the Future. You just, friendships just, they're organic, and we just geek out about the most random things that I've come to notice.
I love that. I mean, I think that that's
Yeah.
the thing, you know, we in a lot of ways are can be conditioned to be play it cool, you know, don't get too excited and nerd out about stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's better. I love seeing people light up when they talk about stuff that they're interested in. I think that that's a much more fascinating conversation, especially cuz so many people can relate. I love theme park stuff too. Universal and Disney and all that. And I'm certainly nostalgic for certain rides that aren't there anymore. In particular, R.I.P. Tower of Terror. But you know, I mean,
Yep.
with
I
change
remember a
and development,
Monsters
that's
Inc.
part of
ride
me.
that was there. There was a Monsters Inc. car and the Roger Rabbit. I don't know if the Toontown is still there because I haven't went in so long, but yeah, those crazy car rides that I used to do with my family. Good times, good times. But yeah,
Yeah, I am
I'm
excited
a
for
nerd.
Tiana's Bayou Adventure though. Like I think from the animatronics that I've seen from the behind the scenes footage with the Imagineers, I think it's going to be awesome. And I love Princess and the Frog. So I'm like if they're going to redo Splash Mountain, I love
Yeah,
that they're doing it with that. I think that's the best possible use of that
yeah,
space.
yeah. And to date, okay, I'm just trying to get my memory right, but I think after Princess and the Frog, I there was a Winnie the Pooh movie. I cannot believe I almost forgot. Yeah, there was a Winnie the Pooh movie, and then after that, I think Disney just kind of stuck to 3D CGI for a long time. But I don't know, there's talks that they may do 2D animated films again, so we'll see. Yeah.
I wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, totally. Because 2D animation, especially right now, particularly indie, as I we can kind of see in the little corner over there, is kind of really, dare I say, popping off.
Yeah.
Going with that modern day slang. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, still feels weird whenever you have to adapt to new slang, especially if you grew up in like the 90s too. But then again, I feel
Yeah, I
like
know.
in the 90s, whenever you grew up in like the 60s or 70s, then you have to adapt to the 90s. Go, trust me, my parents are kind of like, oh, 90s. Yeah. And they have
Yeah.
to adapt to the new whatever's going on back then. And now we're adapting to the 2020 stuff. So it's like, oh boy, wow. Wonder how it's going to be in the next 20 years. Yeah. That would be
Yeah, we're
interesting
all on the
going back to
carousel of
this.
progress.
Yeah, it'll be interesting going back to this and then watch it 10 years later and it's like, oh wow, we're in totally different points in our lives. So I don't really
Yeah.
look into the future very much, but I just like to focus on what we can do now to make a better future, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love that too. Same way.
Yeah. Um, so growing up, because I know you mentioned that you grew up in Virginia.
Yeah,
Am I right?
Southern Virginia. Hmm.
Southern Virginia. So, yeah, my family's from the South too. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
where are
it's
they
pretty
from?
interesting. From like, Alabama, Arkansas, that area. So I kind of took a little bit of
Yeah, the deep
Southern
South.
mannerisms. Yeah, the deep, deep South, man. So, yeah, now I'm in LA. So, but yeah, growing up in Virginia, how would you say that your childhood was like, being on way on the other side? Like, we're talking like East Coast, Virginia.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I loved it. I think it was a really great place to grow up, certainly, especially because most of my family was there. And so it was nice having that community, especially too where I'm from. A lot was centered on nature and historical stuff. So like there was botanical gardens. I had the beach close by. The mountains were a couple of hours away, so it was a little bit more of a trek to get to the mountains. But like, I grew up very close to uh, Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, Washington, D.C. was only about 4 hours away. And so we'd go on a lot of field trips to a lot of places like that. And so it kind of got me interested in local history and stuff. And also where I live, or where my mom still lives, it's like on a river. And so there was a little ravine across the street from me with like little woods. And so my friends and I would always be like off playing in the woods and having adventures and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it was a combination of where I grew up and then the time I grew up in where it wasn't all technology. Like I got to go outside and use my imagination and be a kid. And I think that that really informed a lot of my storytelling stuff because I grew up as an only child. And so a lot of time was spent just entertaining myself and figuring it out. And so like my friends and I would always just be like going around the neighborhood having adventures and stuff. And so it was great. I still love to go back and visit when I go home for the holidays to see my family and everything because I am nostalgic for certain things and I miss the seasons as well living in Los Angeles. So it's nice to like actually get a bit of a fall and winter there when I go home. So it's nice.
It's kind of like, do you feel it's a culture shock moving from Virginia to LA? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, I don't know if you felt
Uh,
this way when you moved too, but moving out of the South,
uh,
particularly where there's certain points of view and belief systems and things, when I moved out to LA, I was like, oh wow, amazing. There's so many different types of people and belief systems and other things going on. So, like, I like the excitement of city life. I'm someone who kind of fluctuates between country mouse, city mouse kind of thing. I like both, but I really like the excitement of living in Los Angeles, and I love how diverse it is here and how many beautiful types of people are represented out here. So I don't think I'd ever move back per se. Never say never, but I like where I'm situated now, and it also is where the entertainment industry is. So
I mean, I was born and raised here in LA for the last 20 plus years.
mm,
And I did mention that, my parents' side, they came from, Arkansas and everywhere. And,
gotcha.
those, so they moved out here, and I think I kind of sort of, because something that's really interesting, like I know earlier you mentioned you kind of picked up on dialects and, everything else. I sort of picked up on, I mean, I'm still not 100%. I'm not like the best per se. Like, I mean, all of us are still learning and growing every day, but when it comes to accents and dialects, I can kind of pick it up from either from studying with a coach, hanging out with friends, or just watching a lot of movies. Or just watching a lot of cartoons and then just picking up, oh, okay. Oh, so that was based on an actor from like the 40s and 50s. Okay. I just will do some
Fun. Do you
research.
have a favorite
Yeah.
accent or dialect to do?
Um, Pretty much just general. Well, I can kind of go into a little bit of a southern accent every now and then. Howdy, y'all. Little old Huckleberry Hound.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
if
was
you get
my.
if you get there in the South, and there's so many different types of different Southern
Yeah,
dialects
yeah.
too. So it
There's
just
so many
depends on which
dialects.
area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And kind of sometimes a little bit of a Brooklyn, New York type of thing. New York, but except they don't say it as New York. Or the Bugs Bunny, the voice thing. It has a lot of personality. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I just
some
kind
of
of
my
slip into
friends,
it every now and then.
it's a fun one to slip into. Some of my friends are
Yeah,
from Long Island, so I
yeah.
talk like them a little bit to them. But my favorite to do is honestly, I really like a British accent.
Ah,
I've been
yes,
working on
Federal
that one for
British.
about most of my life, so that's a good one. It's always
There's that
fun
Harry
to,
Potter. Yeah,
yeah. It's fun to
yeah.
experiment.
Yeah. Um, there was one time, oh my gosh, there was an audition I did where I had to play a Canadian seagull, and it was not the most accurate, but it was like, oh, I'm sorry, sorry, eh? I know that's pretty bad, but you know what? I had fun doing
Oh,
it.
that's so fun.
That's why I go in here, whatever it's a bad. Sometimes if you do like a bad accent or a bad impression of somebody, that can make a good character. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of original characters come from doing an accent or impersonation of somebody else and then kind of
Yeah,
tweaking it and making it your own. That's the fun part.
yeah. I announced not too long ago that I played a character who has sort of a French accent. I mean, he did have a French accent from a show that I used to enjoy, that I watched as a kid, but it was just really fun just pulling out that French mannerisms, oui, oui, bonjour, Lumiere
Yeah,
from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah,
absolutely.
just pulled those inspirations and references. So it's just fun to pull from many random characters, like the Pepe Le Pew. Yeah, and then just make that into a
Mm-hmm.
character. That's a bad impression, and that can turn into a character. Haha. So
That's right.
anyway, yeah. Um, and I love how you mentioned Robin Williams because he was also one of my big dude. When I mentioned Robin really inspired me of like improv, coming up with different characters and voices on the spot. He was the go-to guy. And I also love comedians like Jim Carrey, Eddie Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
so on and so forth. But I think Robin just had this little zing to him that not no one, and this is gonna sound kind of, I know it's probably gonna sound harsh of me to say this, but there was only one Robin Williams. And
Yeah,
it's really unfortunate that we're never gonna get somebody like him for a
I
very
know.
long
But
time.
how lucky are we that in our
Exactly,
lifetime we
yeah.
got to experience him and his
Exactly.
magic?
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard a couple of friends of mine say that they went to a couple of his shows and it was just, dude, seeing him in person is not like seeing him on YouTube or on TV or just anything. And it, you know, I just got to credit him for being the person. Without him, I wouldn't really be the person I am today when it comes to improv or just making up characters on the spot without him.
Yeah, he's a huge inspiration to me. And I mean, you can't see it, it's off camera, probably this way, but I have a framed version of his comedy vinyl of one of his albums over here on my like
Man,
inspiration wall because yeah, I mean, he was one of a kind for sure. And I'm very grateful that my dad was very similar to him in a lot of ways, so I got to experience a lot of that fun playfulness and creativity growing up.
yeah. And being from the South, I'm just saying this a lot, but I just really have grown to love like a lot of food here. Like I also am a lover of fried chicken. I know it's not healthy, but I can kind of dig
Fried
in
chicken's the
into it.
best. Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of go dig into it every now and then. Like I just order some good old home cooked meals are the best, but sometimes if I'm bored, I'm just like, let's just do KFC or church. Actually, Popeyes. I think Popeyes is kind of my favorite when it comes to, um, fried accessories. I mean, like I said, not healthy. I'm kind of on a health kick, but yeah, when it's good, it be good.
Yeah.
Son, finger licking good.
Yeah, once in a while, why not? You know, as long as you're not
Just,
having
yeah,
it like
exactly.
every single night, you know, no judgment
Mm-mm-mm.
if you do, but like
Oh,
I just saw today actually they announced that they're going to be opening Bojangles on the West Coast, which is one of my favorite southern fast food places, so I'm so excited that Bojangles is coming to LA. I cannot wait for a chicken biscuit.
Jangles. I think I've heard of it. I have
Sometimes
not
it just
seen one
hits.
out here. Yeah,
Oh, it's good. Try it when it comes. I think they're going to be rolling them out in the next like year or two.
yeah. Oh, okay, so it's like way on the other side. Okay, North Carolina, nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely would love to try. We'll love to try that when it comes out. Comes over here in the West. So, um, but
Yeah, that's my
yeah,
sweet tea.
totally. So you've been singing, acting, and you've been voicing so many characters since you were a kid. And in many respects, how would you say that it had helped you really grow as an artist and as an actress? Of
Oh
just juggling so
man.
many different things. Because we were talking about being multi-talented on a lot of things. So how was it really something that really helped you for when you made the big splash into doing this professionally?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in a lot of ways it's been great because I love learning new skills. And so I like pushing myself out of my comfort zone just to see if I can do something. And I like the challenge of taking on something new and learning a new skill just because I find it interesting. And I think that everything that I've learned or wanted to work on or different areas I've wanted to hone has all proven useful in my career, and it's come up at some point. Like with the singing, I've always loved singing. I used to be in chorus, I did musicals growing up. And so now whenever I get like some animation auditions where I get to sing for that because it would be a singing role, I'm like, great, now this is a chance I can use to like bust that back out. Or if I'm making like fun collab videos with people, I get to sing and showcase my love of that in that way. Or, I have a theater background, but I've also done a lot of film acting, I've done a lot of voiceover. And so I can always just like play around with these different mediums and try different things out. One thing I'm really excited about in my career is to book like a big AAA video game where I get to go in the volume and do some mocap PCAP work because I love motion capture, and I think that that's the best of all worlds because you have the theatrical kind of elements to it where you're fully acting out the scenes and you're memorized, but then there's the camera elements you have to be aware of, and then there's the voiceover aspect, and so you kind of get to meld all the passions into one. And so I love all of that, and I think every skill that I learn or every um, aspect of the industry that I learn helps me grow not only as an artist for those reasons, but also as a person because it just kind of makes me a bit more well-rounded and I get to learn more about the industry that I'm in, which just kind of helps serve me moving forward.
Yeah. Because being multifaceted in so many different areas, it's like, it can be a good thing. There's pros and cons, but I will say that one of the biggest pros is that you get to really be versatile and flexible with what you can do and showcase to people like, okay, so this is what I do. I know I'm really good at this, and this is what I have to offer for the project. I'm just saying that as an example. Um,
Yeah.
and I know that it's definitely helped you along the way for so many productions that you've done. I mean, if I were to look at your resume and reels right now, it would be like, okay, this would be an episode that would, we could have like a whole separate episode on that with all the different productions that you've been a part of and everything that you've done. So, I guess one of the particular ones that I wanted to discuss with you about, it's being in the film Matches and voicing in projects like Ellen the Spellbinder, everything else. Some of your biggest well-known projects to date as part of the resume.
Yeah.
Because let's dig into your
Yeah.
career now.
Let's. So you want to talk about those two in particular first?
Yeah, and then some other ones that you've also considered to be some of your favorites or just ones that you consider to just have an absolute blast of doing that has really got your name out there. Just
Yeah.
anything
Well,
that you
I
want to talk about.
really Yeah, for sure. Well, I really was honored to be asked to be a part of the film Matches. It's a short film that was made by Velgardo Productions, which is amazing. It's a brother-owned company and was produced by and directed by Emmy Award-winning producer Blake Voss, who was fantastic to work with. All of the cast and crew was great, and I really liked the story behind it too because they were trying to bring awareness for human trafficking and all of that kind of stuff. And so even though my character was not the main like villain, but certainly wasn't a good guy per se in the story, it was really great to be able to serve it and be a small part of it in that way to help bring awareness to this issue that's very close to the filmmakers' hearts. And so I loved that whole process. It was really fun getting to be a part of it. And like I said, I loved working with everybody. And then it had a very successful festival run. And I'm excited to see where it ends up going next as far as distribution and everything goes. But that team makes a lot of really great work, and I'd be honored to work with them anytime. Um, as far as the animated film that you referenced, I loved that experience. It especially coming from being a 90s kid and loving animation. It was my first lead in an animated movie ever. And so that was very special to me on a personal level, just as like something to check off and also have one of those kind of pinch me moments of like, I get to be a main character in a movie, in an animated movie. Like, what? And so that was really fun. And like the whole process was great. I went into the studio, I recorded everything in a couple of hours, and um, everything just felt very, very like organic and right and fun. And she very much had a flair of like the Disney princess esque ness to her, particularly in her sound. But what something I loved about that character is that she really had such a beautiful heart and really cared about her friends and standing up and doing the right thing and taking care of the people that mattered. And that's something that I can relate to as well. And so to get to lend my voice to a character like that was an incredible experience. And I hope that I get to do a lot more of that in my career as we go forward.
But I was, I just wanted to specifically talk about those because I know they're kind of like the ones that really left an impact on you as a person and as an actress. So it's just kind of like, it's fun to look back on stuff that we've done and we're like, man, this is why I really love doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I love, particularly in my original works that I do, I really love telling stories that matter and make an impact because that's part of what all filmmaking or any type of medium with acting is to me is it touches me at my heart, you know, and I love stuff that moves me, makes me feel something, or makes me feel less alone, like, oh, I'm not the only person who can relate to these situations or whatever. And so in anything that I'm working on, I love and aspire to create things that will positively impact other people as well and make them feel less alone or seen or validated or anything like that, because I think that's the beauty of art. And so that's something that's really important to me, both in the projects that I like to be a part of and the projects that I'm a part of creating. And even though it wasn't specifically an acting gig, there was one other instance when I used to work at Warner Brothers Studios. I worked in the tour department for years. And I remember there's one instance where we had a Make a Wish kid come through, and he loved Scooby Doo. And so they brought out the Mystery Machine, and they had Scooby come out, and they had Matthew Lillard, who had played Shaggy in some of the live action movies, and some of the other people, cast members, come out and do this with him. And they brought the kid along to help them solve a mystery on the back lot. And so
Oh,
I
that is
got to be a
so.
part of that as a tour liaison and go along with them as they were doing all of this. And it was so special and amazing to just like see that kid's face light up and get to be a part of solving the mystery and that whole experience. And I'll never forget it the rest of my life. In fact, I have my Scooby Doo cup here from Warner Brothers when I worked there that I'm drinking my water out of. But I just loved it so much, and to just get to be a part of anything like that is just so beautiful and special. And I think that those are the moments where it feels especially gratifying, because it's like, this is why we do the things that we do, to make somebody's day brighter, you know?
But that is such a sweet story. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you shared it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we're going to be moving on to part two. And if you like this so far, we will be discussing um, just many. We'll just be spontaneous. I don't really have. It's just going to be like a chill. We're just still going to talk about and gush about our favorite stuff. So if you like that, be sure to stick around for part two. And until then, thank you for watching Station Square. And I'll see you in the next part. Bye bye.